Testing. All right. Yeah. Well, people want to get in, get out. I understand that.
Almost 7.
All right, good evening. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Stephanie Pitcher. I'm one of the counselors here in the main building at Chippewa Valley High School. We also have Mr. Baysdale here from Macomb Community College. So we have a few housekeeping items to take care of here at the beginning. And then what we will do is I will do a little introduction. I will have Mr. Baysdale talk more specifically about Macomb. He will then answer some questions so that he can get out of here. And then I will go more into the dual enrollment process with Chippewa Valley High School. So before we get started, I want to make sure you scan the QR code for attendance. That should be on one of the handouts that you received. So if you could please scan the QR code and enter in your students' information, their name, phone number, preferred email address. If you do not know their student number, if they are not with you, that's okay. You can leave that student number blank, okay? But the QR code is on the sheet of paper you should have received, and that was on the table with all the other handouts. Okay, the other item I want to make sure I go over is the Remind. So many of you are on Remind for other reasons. I do like to have a dual enrollment Remind text group. So if you could please sign up for that. And that was on the back of that QR code. So the handout that had the QR code, turn it over, and you can sign up for the Remind text group because we will be sending out important information about deadlines and reminders and things like that. So really the purpose of tonight is to inform you of the opportunity of dual enrollment because it is an awesome, fantastic opportunity for many students, okay? So we want to make sure that you know about this opportunity, and we want to give you important information about it. We want you to understand what type of classes you can take, what the process is all about, and then make an informed decision on, do you want to move forward with this? Because it's not for everybody, but for many, it's a great chance to start college while you're in high school. So that's really what it is, taking high school and college classes at the same time. So when you think about that, really, I think it's important to think about what the long-term goal is, right? So what do I want to do after high school, right? And some of the students may not know, that's okay. But if you do know, it is helpful because that will help guide your dual enrollment plan, okay? And if you don't know, these are some great career exploration websites. So Zello, many of our students have been using that site since 7th grade. So that's available to them for free all the time. They can take different assessments on there. They can get recommendations for different career matches. They can review career information that might help guide them to some ideas, okay? And then some of these other websites are similar, and I think they're all great exploration tools. It's just important, I think, to put some time and effort into exploring, and doing your research. Benefits of dual enrollment, definitely some great benefits. You have access to courses that we do not have here at the high school. I know a popular area that I have students take dual enrollment for all the time is like criminal justice, because we don't really have much in criminal justice here at the high school. So many of our students will take criminal justice classes at Macomb. You can also count some of those dual enrollment classes if you need to for high school graduation credits. You can get a head start, of course, on getting some college credits before you graduate high school. And then the financial savings, because we will go over what the district will cover, but the district does cover a portion or all of that dual enrollment class. It depends on, what class it is, but we'll go over the specifics of that later. But big financial savings with dual enrollment. Okay, so where can you take college classes? So technically, you can take college classes anywhere for dual enrollment in the state of Michigan, but we use Macomb, I would say 99.5% of the time, because it's close, it's got great rates, and they have a wide range of offerings. So that's why I have Mr. Baysdale here, because he's going to give you some great information about Macomb and the opportunities that they have there. So I'll turn it over to him.
All right, well, good evening. I do have a QR code for our purposes if you could scan tonight. Students, you can do this. And we're going to talk about, all the ramifications of dual enrollment, and this isn't going to be all sunshine and flowers. Part of my responsibility tonight is to make sure you understand, everything that goes with dual enrollment, the good and the bad, because we want you to be, educated consumers. I do think it's a tremendous opportunity. I was a dual enrollment student back in 96, 97, the first year you could do it. So I always ask with the students in attendance, who am I working with tonight? So do I have anybody who is going to be a senior next year, going to do it for the first time? That was me. I only had 1 year to do dual enrollment because that's when they passed the law, and I still managed to get 19 college credits done. And through some creative things at my four-year school, I managed to graduate an entire year early. So then went on, I got my master's degree in another year. So 22, I was teaching, and it was, and I had my master's degree already. That can be you. One of the most persuasive arguments I've seen lately is, I'm not a big fan of gap years, but the research indicates that if a student takes a gap year, it costs them $90,000 on average over their lifetime because it removes one of the highest earning years of your career. I would argue dual enrollment could have the exact opposite effect. It could add about $90,000 and probably more because you'd have a college degree for each of the years that you can complete. So if you have a student, and I do have students all the time who manage to get that associate's degree while they're in high school, the savings can be substantial, all right? And so we're going to talk about some of that tonight, all right? So I always like to start with the education pyramid for the benefit of the kids that are here. What I always used to say was 50 years ago, you could graduate from high school and you could go get yourself a job that could give you a middle-class life. Okay, you go work for Ford, Chrysler, GM, you name it. Those days are not only gone, they've been gone for about 25 years, okay? So what you have to do is, the question basically is, what am I gonna do after high school? You have to plan on something else after you get that high school diploma. Might be a certificate, might be just some advanced training in a particular area. Or you might start pursuing an associate's degree. And really what I'd like my graphics folks to do at the college one day is take that associate's degree and bury it into the bachelor's degree, because that's what it is. Your associate's degree is your first 2 years of college. And then of course, if you can knock those out, you have a lot less left to go. Do I have any rising juniors, so current sophomores here tonight? All right, you've got, I'm always jealous of you guys because you have a lot more time than I did, and you can do even more damage when it comes to dual enrollment. So we're going to talk about what are some smart ways to do this. How do we make sure we have a pathway of some sort? And do I have any students here who are looking to do some kind of a pre-professional program? Pre-med, pre-vet, pre-law? Which one? Pre-med. I got some bad news for you. You're going to be in school a long time, because you've got 4 years for your undergrad, 4 years for med school, 4 years for your residency. You will not have MD after your name until you're 30. Let's see if we can put a 2 handle on that, okay? And I think dual enrollment will get you started there. So dual enrollment, as we've mentioned already, is simply a high school student taking college courses for credit. It's happened at different ways in the state of Michigan since 1991, but it wasn't until 1996 when they made it specifically for dual enrollment and said school districts have to pay for classes. And we'll talk about how all the funding works, because I think it's important that you be good consumers. Just keep this in mind. If you do it right, you shouldn't owe anything out of pocket for your dual enrollment classes, okay? And that's the most persuasive thing I could say. So we'll talk about that. All right. I already told you my story, what I did with my dual enrollment credits. Students, I can tell you, one of the best days of my life was when I had finally gotten through, I did my dual enrollment, I had 19 credits, I transferred to a 4-year school, and I managed to, after 1 semester I was a sophomore, and after 2 I was a junior. So when I came back for my second year, I knew I only had 2 years left to go. And I still remember being up on the stage a couple of days before graduation. They had a ceremony, and I was getting an award from the president. And I looked out into the crowd, because we were all in the basketball gym. And sure enough, there were all the guys that were in my freshman year dorm, all sitting together. They're still friends. And they looked at me, and I looked at them, and then they realized, oh my gosh, he's graduating already, and we got another year left. And there are a few days in this life that you are vindicated. That was one of them. All right? So we're going to talk about how that can be you. That's the vision we want to create of getting out of school early, especially if you're heading on for that pre-professional degree. So, dual enrollment is open to both public and non-public high school students. Obviously, being in a public school, you are good to go. You are really well situated, not just in terms of location and how close you are to the college here, but also because you guys have 6 classes per day, which means you're going to get about the maximum amount of money from your school district. Next year, for every class that your student takes, Chippewa Valley Schools has to pay up to $800.33, okay? Now, if you're wondering what it costs, because I hear a lot of people who say, oh, I've heard so much about college. College is so expensive. It's ridiculous. It's not worth it. Please do not put us with them. And students, I'm going to be very blunt with you. If you go to a 4-year school and you rack up $200,000 in debt for a job that pays $40,000 a year, you're an idiot, okay? At Macomb, we're $106 a credit hour. Just to give you an idea, I had to buy 1 extra credit the last semester I was at Alma in order to graduate in that 3-year plan. That 1 credit that I had to buy was over $500. Today, it would be over $1,500, okay? Next year, it's going to be $108 a credit hour. Dual enrollment actually gets a discount rate. So what does that mean? You can get a 3-credit course at Macomb for about $400 and a 4-credit one for about $500, leaving plenty of money for your books. All right, we'll talk about a couple special circumstances, and there's ways around it. The science classes, if you decide to go that way, are more expensive. And we'll talk about what you're allowed to take and what Chippewa will allow you to take. And I think you really can blend some of the best things that you can get at Chippewa and some of the best things you can get at Macomb. So the funding is determined by the state, very simple. You can be sponsored for tuition fees, and I'm just going to say it, you're going to get your books too. Because at $500 for a course, you're going to have about $300 left over for the book. Very, very few classes have books that are that expensive, and many of them take advantage of online books. I have seen some $300 medical textbooks, $39 when they're delivered as an online text. So what I do recommend in those situations is have a cheap little tablet along with your Chromebook or your laptop that you're using, so you don't have to jump back and forth between the class content and then, of course, your book. You can be sponsored for up to 10 courses between grades 9 and 12, okay? So do the math. If you take all 4-credit classes, that could be as much as 40 credits. Now let's talk a little bit about credits, because I want to make sure you understand this. So how many credits do you need to graduate from Chippewa? 22, okay? Credits in college are done quite a bit differently, okay? Figure each year that you're in college, it's 30 credits. It's 120 to get your bachelor's degree, okay? If you just take the 10 that you're allotted, even if you only do 3-credit courses, there's 30 credits right there and you got a year done. If you do all 4-credit classes, now you're up to 40. And what you're going to learn is if you also have AP courses that you have taken and passed the test in, that speeds your progress to both your degree and the Michigan Transfer Agreement. I'm curious, do we have any students in here who have taken and passed an AP test already? Because some of you already have college credit that you don't know about. So if I can ask, which classes? I think I saw a hand here. I love AP US History. Do you know why? It's 8 college credits. For a 3 or better, we award 8 college credits because we have to give you credit. That class covers everything in American history. So we give you credit for history up to the Civil War and then Civil War to today. So it's 8 college credits. Has anyone here taken or will be taking AP Lang? All right, if you get a 3 on it, we'll give you 4 English credits. If you get a 4 or a 5, it's 8, and your English part of the Michigan Transfer Agreement is done, okay? So it behooves you to keep challenging yourself with AP classes. Parents, I'm going to ask something from you. You know your child. What you're going to want to make sure is that they don't get overwhelmed. If they're taking 2 dual enrollment and an AP or 2, that's good. Maybe one of the classes they were going to do honors in, you give them a little break and make it a regular level so that they're not too overwhelmed. That's the best thing you can do, okay? So people also ask me, if I get a year done at Macomb, or if I get my associate's degree, which I just awarded a student from Fraser, it was actually last year, she earned her associate degree, didn't do early college, just did dual enrollment. She took some classes, she had some AP, and mom or dad paid for a spring summer class or 2. In January of 23, we awarded her associate's degree. So she already has 2 years of college done, and she hasn't even graduated high school yet. That's what's on the table, okay? So if she decides to do something pre-professional, she doesn't have as long to go. I always get the question, does that make me ineligible for college scholarships? Quite the contrary. Colleges want to see a track record. I get the question all the time, AP or dual enrollment? You know what my answer is? Yes, both. Because they both demonstrate that you can do college level work, and that's what they want to see. And I'll tell you in a little bit one other advantage of dual enrollment that may not be immediately evitable. It is your right to do dual enrollment under state law. The law actually says school districts shall provide funding, okay? But this is where your counselors come in because they're going to help you choose a course. For that first course, you need something you can knock out of the park. And I think that's really, really important, okay? There are minimum test scores for English and math, but they only apply to English and math. So if you have, PSAT is a good example. There's like 7 tests you can take to qualify, but you need a 460 in English language arts and a 510 in math. If you don't have those scores, doesn't mean you can't take a dual enrollment class, but you won't be taking it those areas. And what you'll find is with math and English, those are some of the more difficult ones to be able to take as dual enrollment because the school is going to ask that you complete the highest level course available to you here, whether it's AP Calc or AP Lang or Lit. Another pro tip here, you do AP Lang or AP Lit, you don't do both. You only get college credit for one or the other. So think about that as you're crafting your schedule as well, okay? Parents, you can absolutely, the minute your student gets into Macomb Community College, and they could apply tonight, we will give them enrollment permission through August of their senior year. If you decide financially it's something you're willing to support and you want to do this for your child, you could absolutely sign them up for a spring summer course, okay, as a self-pay, okay? It's tricky to get sponsored, and you have to reduce the schedule, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. One of the things about dual enrollment is for every course you take, the state law is very clear on this, your schedule has to be reduced at your home school. So that's what happened to me. I had my second semester of my senior year, I had 3 courses, so I only had 3 courses back at my home school, all right? This isn't a situation where you can say, oh, but I really love all 6 classes. It must be reduced. And so if you don't want to give up any of your classes, then maybe self-pay is a better option for you, all right? I think my next slide should, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to be clicking it this way, okay. Just a couple other things too about as far as AP and dual enrollment, how they stack. So we're gonna talk about the Michigan Transfer Agreement in a little bit. This is the one great thing about living in Michigan. Did you save that slide, Stephanie? The MTA slide that I had? It's on there later. So we'll talk about how the state of Michigan has already set up a format where you can find out exactly what classes you have to take, and at least when it comes to public universities, it's guaranteed transfer, okay? So I have dual enrollment students in all of these different areas. I have students who are doing automotive. I have students who are doing surgical tech. We have a surgical tech class, Surgical 1050, where basically after students complete it, we actually have hospitals that are clamoring for our students, and we'll hire them for 22 or 23 bucks an hour, all right? It's amazing what one class can unlock, okay? One phrase I always tell students, you're not just a dual enrollment student. I have kids that say, yeah, I'm a college student, but I'm just dual enrollment. You are much more than that. You are a full-fledged Macomb Community College student with the same rights and privileges as anybody else, okay? That means you have access to the tutoring center. That means you have access to the reading and writing studios, All right, another really great benefit that we just did, we contracted with a mental health company called You Will. All Macomb students, including dual enrollment students, now get up to 5 free online mental health therapy sessions per problem. And I still don't know exactly what that means, but what a benefit. And the way that they verify it is your Macomb email. So if you're a dual enrollment student, you'll have a Macomb email and you'll be able to access that. Just one of the things that we do because we think it's important for students. We offer classes at, online. We offer them at both of our center and south campus and our east campus. I actually have dual enrollment students right now who are taking the EMS program at East Campus over by the Macomb County Jail. Let's see, where else? MTech, I have students who are at MTech taking a WCE type course that leads to a certificate. So we have lots of different opportunities for students. When it comes to classes, I like the idea of your first class being a face-to-face class. I think there's value in that. I also know not everybody drives. And so one of the things we do offer is we offer a couple different types of online classes. We basically distinguish between online and remote. Remote classes are synchronous. So you have to be online at a certain time, okay? Online courses are asynchronous. So you can do the work whenever you want to as long as you meet the professor's deadlines. Be honest, students, how many of you do your best work at about 2 in the morning? Not me, not me. I do my best work at 4 when I wake up. But that's the great thing about a class like that, is you can do that. I like the remote classes because you're watching it live and you can ask a question in real time. I think there's some value in that too. We have hybrid courses where sometimes it meets online and sometimes it meets face-to-face. And then the ultimate in flexibility is our high flex courses. These are classes that are delivered online or face-to-face every single session, but you can also tune in remotely. And if for some reason you can't make it either way, the class lectures are archived for viewing later. So those are really nice. Some of our MACA classes, Media and Communication Arts, at South Campus are being delivered that way. All right? We have over 200 programs. We have over 800 courses, and almost every single one of them is open to your student, okay? With the caveat that it has to be something that Chippewa Valley schools will approve, okay? But I have dual enrollment students doing all this stuff and more. One thing I always like to point out, we're going to talk about having a plan for dual enrollment. All right, we don't want to just see a student do random acts of dual enrollment that aren't going to transfer very well or things like that. However, let's say you want to be a vet tech or you want to be a veterinarian. I think there's value in taking our Intro to Animal Careers class. And I think there's also value if you say, ooh, that isn't what I thought it was. I hate this. You've just saved yourself from a very expensive major change when you're in college. So I think there's value in that too. But everything you see there, the culinary, and you're right by center campus. Okay, but everything you see there, I have students in. So here's the great thing. As a lifelong Michigander, I think I have the right to complain about Michigan winners. We've been very lucky this year. We won't be next year, from what I hear, okay? But the one really great thing about living in Michigan is we have the Michigan Transfer Agreement. And I see the looks on your faces. My kid isn't even in your college yet, and you're already talking about transferring? I have to. Because this is how we're going to make their dual enrollment meaningful, okay? So, in the state of Michigan, there is a block of 30 specific credits. If you get these 30 credits and you have a C or better in each of these, it is guaranteed transfer to any Michigan public university you get into. So let's say you complete the Michigan Transfer Agreement and you get into CMU and you have a C or better in every class, all right? It is guaranteed transfer. They cannot say no. That said, I do think transferability has never been as good as it is right now. I'm always amazed at all the different things that do transfer. And if you know what four-year school you want to end up at, one of the best tips I can give you is go to their transfer website. As somebody who was a Wolverine for their master's degree, I have to say, I am deeply impressed with Michigan State's transfer website. Because I went to their website and I punched in Macomb Community College and I couldn't believe some of the courses they took. And those are just straight up. You didn't even need the Michigan Transfer Agreement. So every Michigan public university is part of this agreement. And then a surprising number of private schools have signed on too. Aquinas, Adrian, I'm trying to, U of D Mercy is on there. So there's a fair number of schools. Madonna is another one that comes to mind. So they're all part of that agreement too. So I recommend you look at their four-year website. So we want you to avoid these random acts of dual enrollment by doing a couple things. You can pick a pathway. If you know you want to pursue an associate's degree, you can get started during high school. And then keep in mind, for those of you who are seniors, the money's not guaranteed for anybody else yet, but it probably will. You have access, next year's seniors, you would still have access to the Michigan Transfer Grant or the Michigan Achievement Scholarship. The Michigan Achievement Scholarship will give you $2,750 a year to keep going to Macomb. So between dual enrollment and the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, if you qualify, and your family contribution has to be $30,000 or more per year to not qualify. I think I saw the numbers. It's like 97% of Macomb County qualifies. But if you get that, your entire associate's degree, your first 2 years, should end up being free if you do it right. Extending your studies beyond AP. So here's another really cool thing about AP. I have a student who is from Chippewa here who took the BC Calc AP, got a 5 on it, and went and dual enrolled with us last semester and took Calc 3 and linear algebra. Not my idea of fun, but you do you, kid, all right? Maybe you guys know the student, all right? But what a great opportunity. So what AP does is it helps you complete the Michigan Transfer Agreement. I'll show you that in a second. But it also allows you to go deeper. So I have another student who wants to be an engineer. Same thing. He's taking physics courses, magnetism courses, things like that after passing the base AP physics course. So if you pass the AP psychology test with a 3, 4, or 5, now you can go to Macomb and take the next class, abnormal psych. Crazy people. All right? And or if you want to be a teacher, another class I recommend is you can then get into educational psychology. And you can mark that one off your list before you head to your 4-year to get the rest of your teaching degree. So that's a great opportunity. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, parents, you won't have access to anything like power schools, okay? That said, students, I just want you to know, whatever class you take, we will be watching. And what I mean by that is my Office of K-12 Relations has taken over all of the monitoring of student performance, okay, for all of our students who are under the age of 18. We don't just sit there and wait for a professor to say, hey, this kid's got a problem. We are actively watching class averages. And if we see something we don't like, we fire off an email so fast to your counseling team here. And they've been awesome about it. We also text the student because we know that's the way many of you like to receive your information. Hey, something's up in this class. Give us a call. Let's see if we can find you some assistance, okay? So one of the things I have to talk about is FERPA. So the 1974 Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act kind of splits things between high school and college. Parents, if you want to come into the office tomorrow morning and see your child's academic records here, you absolutely can. Students, why can they do that? Isn't that kind of violation of your privacy? Why can they do that? Because you're a minor. And until you're 18, according to FERPA, at least at the high school level, you don't mean anything. Now, when they enroll at a post-secondary institution, it's completely opposite. Students, once you enroll in a class at Macomb, if your parent calls me, I can't even tell them that you exist. And I'll tell you what, that 1974 law, they never imagined that high school kids would be taking college courses. They didn't see it back then. Congress should amend it, but that's another discussion, okay? Now, parents, one of the things you can do while these little cherubs are still living under your roof is demand that they file a FERPA form, which would give you access to this kind of information. And there's a couple reasons why I think it's helpful. One is, students, I know what you're going to do. You're going to get into your class. You're going to say, Mom, will you go to the bookstore and pick up my book for me? You don't laugh. You know you're going to do it. If Mom or Dad goes to the bookstore to go get the books and there's a problem with the account, they can't talk to Mom and Dad because they don't have access to that. The other thing is I had a student who was driving to her dual enrollment class and she got in an accident and broke her leg, okay? Mom then called the professor and said, she's in the hospital, she's going to be okay, but can we get her work? But because there was no FERPA, that professor could not even acknowledge that the student existed. So parents, while they're underneath your roof, I would strongly insist that once they get admitted to the college, the next step is to go ahead and file that FERPA form, okay? So here's the Michigan Transfer Agreement. This is what I think you aim at, okay? If you know what you want to do, great, go do it. But if you're not sure, this is kind of the most foolproof thing I can give you. And in case you can't tell, I kind of think this is the whole concept of dual enrollment is about the biggest no-brainer you can ever do. Keeping in mind, though, if a student fails a course, they do have to compensate the district back. That's not us being the bad guy. That's not even Chippewa being the bad guy. That is state law. So they wanted the kids to have some skin in the game. So you at least have to pass the course. If you want the course to transfer, you need a solid C or better. Now, I can see some of the kids are already freaking out. A C? I've never had a C. A B in a college course is not a bad thing, okay? It shows you're capable of doing college-level work. And I would also point out, how many of the students in here are willing to admit they had a freshman year they wish they could forget about? You may not get into your dream undergrad school right now. You would probably not get into Michigan. Fair enough? But it's a lot easier to get in as a transfer student. You come to Macomb and you 4-point it, you got a shot. That's a little secret nobody's talking about. It is so much easier to get in as a transfer student than it is to get in right out of high school. And if you could get and by the way, you could come to Macomb, you could do a little bit more work, essentially using the Michigan Achievement Scholarship, and then transfer to your school when you only have 2 years left. So here's what you need to get that MTA. And it takes some planning because AP and dual enrollment, it's funny, I have schools that tell me, we're not gonna do dual enrollment because we offer AP. And my point is always, they work together. And you're doing your kids a disservice if you don't, okay? You need 2 English courses. Those are gonna be some of the harder courses to take as dual enrollment because, again, remember the rule. You have to take the highest level course available to you here at Chippewa. But if you take AP Lang and you get a 4 or 5, you can check that requirement right off. Humanities. These are the classes everybody wants to take anyway. Intro to the Arts, the class that Michigan State took that I was shocked, and it's a very popular course, rock music, a cultural perspective. Some of the parents are like, I think I'd sign up for that class. Don't worry, I got something for you at the end, all right? Parents, you can actually return to school if you don't have a degree under Michigan Reconnect, and you could take classes right alongside your child. And the students are like, no, you did not just say that. But how many students are okay if mom or dad goes back to school and they have a class at the same time, just not the same class, and they're your ride and they get you lunch every day? That works, okay? So, math. There's a new development here I'm very pleased to talk about. For a while there, you pretty much, the only way you could get the math one, it's hard to do dual enrollment because you're not gonna get a chance to take that high-level math class until you're a junior or senior, but it used to be you had to do AP Calc. If you start to offer AP Pre-Calc here, that will be an option that meets that requirement. So again, AP and dual enrollment work together. My AP US History guy over here, you've got 8 credits and you've got 1 of your social sciences done. It's 2 courses, but you have to have 2 different subjects. So all you would need is an AP Gov or an AP Macro or something like that. Or you could dual enroll in those subjects if you've already taken, a regular level course here. So lots of options for you. Sciences are the most difficult one. Do you guys, Stephanie, do you guys have AP Bio, Chem, Physics? There you go. Pass any 2 of the 3 AP tests and you don't even have to take dual enrollment at Macomb. I will say this too, if you take an AP Bio and you want to be a doctor, my doctor over there, it then unlocks additional courses for you. Microbiology. Maybe pathogenic microbiology sounds like something you'd want to take, all right? Or chemistry, same thing. You could take organic chem once you complete AP Chem. So really, don't stop taking those advanced courses here while you're dual enrolling. Use them to work together to complete this. And parents, one of the things that we do is if you want to come in with your child before they are a fully enrolled student at Macomb, FERPA applies the minute they sign up for class. At that point, it's FERPA form or I can't talk to you. But until your child signs up for a class, you can come on down to our office, whether you bring your child or not, and we can talk with you and we can sketch out a plan for your student to get to the goals that they want. So that's pretty cool. I mentioned already there's a number of resources and support. You have access to the learning centers. You have access to the reading and writing studios. Here's a cool one I didn't mention yet. If you are a Macomb student at any point in your career, you have access to career placement and career services for the rest of your life. That alone is worth the price of admission. A lot of things you can do on campus. A lot of people don't know we have athletics. Men's basketball team just got bounced the other day from their tournament. They made it to the final game last year before they lost. But we're pretty competitive there. Most of our sports are at South Campus. But you can join a student organization. We have a gaming club, all right? And then parents, if it's something you've been thinking of, you absolutely, you could be the transportation for your student. I just wanted to get that out there because a lot of people don't know that in the state of Michigan, if you're 21 or over and you don't have a degree, you have the opportunity to return back to a community college tuition free. And it's the cutest thing. I have a dad and a daughter who are both in the same culinary class. And I admit, sometimes at lunch, I walk down there just to see the two of them. It's so cute, all right? And they're baking and they're helping each other and whatever like that. So there's a lot of options you have, okay? If you want some information on that, I can give it to you afterwards, all right? Okay, so here's the process for getting into the college, okay? Keep in mind you have 2 sets of paperwork you have to do, students. You have everything Chippewa wants you to do, and then you have your Macomb stuff, and you have to do them both, okay? So the first thing you do is you have to create an admissions account, okay? Use a personal email, not a school email if you have it. So iCloud, Gmail, something like that, okay? You have to apply as a dual enrollment student, okay? It's the only way you can get in if you're under 18 and don't have a high school diploma. Pretty straightforward there. You have to complete your Chippewa Valley High School request form, okay? So again, that's the you can do both of these simultaneously too. You can start working on your Chippewa form, start applying to Macomb, and this can go on at the same time. The magic date is April 1st. If you can be fully admitted to the college by April 1st, you will be able to register for classes on the first day that they're available. Because believe it or not, they do fill up. Once you apply to Macomb, you'll get a confirmation email. Thanks for applying to Macomb. Watch your email. It's going to take 2 or 3 days. I have 1 to 2 up there, but we're getting some fraudulent apps right now. And they're not doing dual enrollment fraudulent apps, but it's slowing everything down. So be patient. If 2 or 3 days goes by and you haven't heard from us, you can give my office a call, all right? Once that application gets processed, you're going to get another email. Thanks for applying to Macomb. Here are the 4 final steps you need to be fully admitted. So you have to do new student orientation. You click through some slides online. You have a guided self-placement. It's not even a test. It's a guided self-placement survey for English and math. And then the last one. Students, I have something amazing to tell you. These things make phone calls. Did you know that? They're not just for Snapchat or whatever, TikTok, all right? The hardest thing, and parents, maybe you can help on this one. One of the most intimidating things for a lot of our kids is they actually have to pick up the phone and call an adult. And that's our starting at Macomb session or our SAM session. They have to call counseling and academic advising. And it's a 10 or 15-minute phone call. It's not a big deal. But for a lot of the kids, there's like a mental block. So you may have to hold their hand. I've held some kids' hands while they're making that phone call. But they're just going to ask questions like, do you know what you're going to take? Is there anything you need to be more successful in the class? If a student, while they're filling out the app, marks down that they're food insecure, they will look to provide benefits for you there and try to find you ways to help you, okay? So the starting at Macomb phone call is the tricky part. Once you finish these steps, and I always tell students, when you call for that starting at Macomb, make sure the other 3 are done already. And then at the end, you can say, I am a dual enrolled student from Chippewa Valley High School, and I need my SAM session. They will know exactly what to do. And then at the end of the call, make sure you say, am I good to go? Something like that. They can go in our system and check to make sure that the new student orientation and the guided self-placements are checked off. And they'll say something like, yep, you're all set to go. Once I hit enter here, it'll be 4 hours till you get your My Macomb password, okay? Once you do get your My Macomb password and your temporary email, first thing you're gonna have to do is go in and change that email. It only works once. I have had students who have logged in with their temporary email and they sign up for all their classes and do all that, and then they forget about it till August. And when they come back on August 21st for their class, and we do start that early, so maybe before you guys start here even, you might have a session or two of your college class, they're locked out. So we don't want that to happen to you. So we want you to change your password and set up multi-factor authorization, okay? Students, you have to register for classes. You register for classes, and I'm going to say this with a big asterisk, you deregister yourself. Now, what I mean by that is you do not take any action to drop a class until you talk to a counselor, period. You have to maintain full-time status between Chippewa Valley High School and the college. So if you're taking 2 classes at the college, they're going to give you 2 hours off here at Chippewa, okay? My math kid was like this. So he got out at 11:30, I think it was, every day, okay? And he took his classes 12 to 1:30, all right? So you can take your dual enrollment classes during the time that you're off, that you're being released from school, but you don't have to. I have athletes that take Saturday morning classes because they don't want it to interfere with football practice. I get that. I have students that do online courses. I have students that do remote classes, 7 to 10 on a Thursday night because that's the night they don't have to worry about anything. That's fine too. You have an enormous amount of flexibility in how you do this, but you do need to take it seriously. After you're signed up, you're going to get a Macomb email. You should be checking it a couple times a day. Even better, have the emails pushed to your phone. Just get into that habit, okay? That's how your professors are probably going to communicate with you. When it comes to the bookstore, you call the bookstore up in July, and you say, I'm a dual enrolled student from Chippewa Valley High School, and I need my books for dual enrollment. They can pull them for you. They can have them all ready. They can look at your account. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have plenty of money left over unless you're doing a science class. Keep in mind that some of our science classes, even though they're 4 credits, we bill them like 7. So if you take Intro to Bio, for example, that's a 7 billable hour class. So what I tell students in that situation, you will not have enough money in your dual enrollment account if you take just that class. But if you take a 3 credit Intro to the Arts, plus the science class, now they have to contribute $1,600. They double the amount, and I like your chances of being able to pay for everything and get the books, okay? That's how you do that. All right, here's a very important contact. Please take a snapshot of that. This gets you to my office. That gets you in touch with my secretary, Margaret. Margaret will if there's a question, Margaret will kick that over to one of us. There's myself, the director. My manager is my number 2, Jim, and my dual enrollment navigator, Tracy. Any of them can help you with questions you have, and honestly, so can Margaret. But if you want to meet with me or you want to meet with someone in our office, give us a call, and you can come in, and we'll sketch out an entire plan for you and your student to make their dual enrollment meaningful. Okay? I'll go back to that to leave that up in case you guys want to snap that. What questions do you have for me tonight from the Macomb side of things? Anything I can answer or make more clear? Yes. Yes.
When I did it, it says you need a letter from the principal.
No, okay, so that is our form that the counselors fill out. So what will happen is you should get some kind of a notification from the school. Everybody does it differently. That says you are approved to take this course, student, and your schedule will be reduced correspondingly. We ask for that as kind of a way to cover in case we're audited. We've been made aware of some schools who are not reducing schedules, and that's a violation. So I've never had that problem with any Macomb public school. So that form, that sponsorship form that asks for that, is only done by Chippewa Valley personnel. Yes, I would say this. You can start signing up for courses on April 1st, okay, if you're a new student. You could sign up and you could register for your courses if you know Chippewa is going to approve them, and then they could get that form into us. It really doesn't matter till about July. Where it starts to be problematic is if you're signed up for a course and they haven't gotten us the paperwork, in July you can be kicked out of the class for non-payment. So that's where that becomes. Right now you can do both simultaneously. You should be filling out your Chippewa paperwork, and your student should be getting admitted to Macomb. Okay, great question. Anything else I can help you with? Yeah.
So let's say she wants to do summer classes.
Yes. I'm getting so much demand for this. It's really great. Those would be self-pay. They start in mid-May, so think about your schedule there too. And remember too, this is our spring break in New Haven with my kids. Your spring break at college and your spring break at high school will not match. So especially in that winter semester, think very carefully about if your family has a big vacation plan during the high school spring break, maybe dual enrollment's not the greatest thing for you that semester. Or what we generally tell students is, if you're gonna take a spring break, try to do it during the college spring break. It is a lot easier to get caught up, and I think you would agree with me. It's a lot easier to we don't want you to miss any school, but I know people are gonna do it. So we say it's easier probably to get caught up on your high school courses. You miss a week of college courses, that's a lot. Remember, your average 12-week or 16-week college course is gonna move about double the speed of a corresponding high school class. We offer 16-week courses, 12-week courses. So let's say you're doing, I think 4-H has something like the last week of August. If you're involved in that, maybe you're better off taking a 12-week course that starts September 21st. So that's one option you might have there, okay? 8-week courses I do not recommend for your first course. It's gonna move 4 times the speed of once you're a seasoned veteran of dual enrollment, a second semester senior who's done well, then maybe you could look at it. That said, Armada, what they do is, the kids who are taking 2 dual enrollment classes, they try to take 2 8-week classes, and their thinking is, they only have to focus on 1 class at a time. I get that, but 8-week classes are really fast. But you know your student, okay? Anything, got a question over there? The simple fact is, not necessarily. However, you can do a lot of things that make sure that those classes do. First of all, there's certain classes that are gonna transfer no matter what you do. Every school offers, psychology. So Psych 1010 is one that would transfer, for example. Any English, math, that kind of stuff. Where you have to be careful, and that's why I was so impressed with the Michigan State one, is the more weird you get, the less likely it is. So I was a high school teacher for 21 years, but I also have taught college for 15. And I teach international relations and US government. Those would transfer anywhere. My department chair teaches the politics of art. Sounds like a fascinating class, probably isn't gonna transfer, okay? So what I tell people is either do something that's on that Michigan transfer agreement, or if you know there's a 4-year you're planning on going to and you think you can get into, go to their website and see what they take from Macomb. Chances are you're gonna have a wider list of classes that way. All right, one more. Okay. Brand new start. So basically, if one thing I will caution, if you think you're gonna be transferring schools, don't sign up for dual enrollment now, okay? Because it doesn't go with you. That said, I've had students who take dual enrollment at one school and then they move during the summer. If they've been successful in a dual enrollment class already, it's probably more likely that the new school district's gonna give it to you. But it does not go with you, whichever school you go to. So that said, he would just fill out the application like anything else, okay? Again, if you have any questions, we are more than happy to sit down with you. We love that part of our job. We love doing that. We are more than happy to sit down with you and your student and sketch out an entire dual enrollment plan, all right? And of course, what you take here at the high school still matters. But I hope what I've offered you today is a little bit of a kind of a primer on, getting a year done in college. To me, this is, if I had my druthers, this is what every student who could do it would do. This would be standard, okay? Because really, there's very, very few downsides and a lot of upside to this. Anything else? Sure, this one here about the application. What happened?
Uh-oh.
Can we bring that back up?
I don't know where he went.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I got it back up. Is this the one you wanted? Yeah, it is. I'll just go back.
You know what? We will post this too.
Yeah,
on our website.
and I have, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to just call us or you want to Teams or Zoom us, we can absolutely have those meetings that way too. So we want people to come in with a game plan, and not just randomly. That said, if there's a class you think you might want to take, because it might be your major in college, I say take it if you can, because you might find out this is not what you want. I've seen that many times, and I think if that happens, you've learned something, and that's valuable. Question? Okay, couple ways that can. You will have alternate classes on your form from Chippewa. I know that's part of it too. So try to pick some alternates that would also be appealing. What we see is sometimes a student will already be in a class, and the class will be dropped or closed due to low enrollment. That will often happen during the summer. Well, guess what? They're not here during the summer. And as someone who has now lost their summer after 21 years of being a teacher, please let them have their summer. But you have options. Your principal might be in. Your central office will almost certainly be in. And those are folks you could go talk to if that's the case. If they can't get in, then you basically have to decide, is there something else that would also help meet the MTA or something they want to do, or do you want to delay it till another semester? Once you're admitted, it's good for an entire year. So if you decide to put in your entry as fall 2024, and you don't take a class till winter, that's okay. Again, it all depends on your schedule and what's going to work for you and your family. And, we want you guys to, I would rather you do one class and do it well and knock it out of the park and be successful than make an ill-advised choice. And we can help in all and again, you can always give us a call too, and we'll try to find sections for you and things like that. The magic, if you want to look what classes are available, the magic phrase on our website when you search using the search function is search for sections. That'll bring our catalog up, and you can see. Question there from a student? Okay, I'm going to let Chippewa handle that one.
Thank you.
Because there are test scores, but there are other things too that they're allowed to look at. If your attendance is lousy, I could understand why they would deny you dual enrollment. Okay? So I will let them handle those.
That's actually one of the next slides, so
Yes.
it's
Okay,
perfect.
good.
Can I see the clicker? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Baisdell. We really appreciate your time. And we do have Macomb giveaways on that table back there, so yes, on your way out if you want to grab one of those. But I do have some more slides to cover. Some of them I'm going to go through pretty quick, though, because Mr. Baisdell did a really nice job of giving you a lot of information about dual enrollment, so I don't want to keep you here too long. With the number of classes that you're allowed to take for dual enrollment, I know he mentioned you can take up to 10 during high school. So this chart just kind of shows you how many you would be allowed per year at the time of your first dual enrollment class. Now, if you start later on in high school, yes, you can take more classes. However, if it's your first time in dual enrollment, I would not recommend starting off with more than like 2 classes probably, because you really don't want to get overwhelmed. You are starting a college transcript, so you want to start off on a good note there, and you want to make sure you're taking, classes that fit into your career plan. Then also you still got to make sure you meet your high school graduation requirements. So we just want you to be careful, and we love to sit down with you and help you plan this. So feel free to make an appointment with a counselor at any time, especially for 9th and 10th graders. Making that 4-year plan is very important. That way we make sure you're taking advantage of all the AP, the dual enrollment, and career tech ed classes that we offer. Okay, so are you ready, right? So we were kind of talking about that. Keep in mind, Macomb Community College is a big place, right? So there are people of all different ages there, So if you're someone who's 14, 15, the average age of a student there is 25, So you will be with people who are quite a bit older than you. And that's okay, but you just want to make sure that you are ready for that. Also, what prereqs, do you need to be in dual enrollment? I mean, there's not like a certain grade point average, or even certain grades. However, I think, if you have A's and B's here and you're taking some AP and honors classes, that would be a good indicator, that you're ready for dual enrollment. If you're struggling and you're, barely passing your classes or you're short with credits, dual enrollment might be difficult for you. The test scores on this page, those have to be satisfied if you're taking like an English or math class, but as Mr. Baisdell mentioned, we offer AP versions of those classes. So many of our students don't get to do the AP English and math unless they've already taken our highest level here. okay? I also think you want to think about the workload with the rest of your commitments, right? So it's not only about, are you academically ready? Do you have time outside of school for this? I know a lot of our high-achieving students are also in athletics. They're in multiple clubs, and dual enrollment classes typically are more afternoon and evening, and that might overlap some of your other commitments. So you just have to think about that and see if you have time for it, and there could be maybe if you're an athlete in the fall, you don't have time for fall dual enrollment, but maybe in winter you do. And just because you do it one semester doesn't mean you have to do it the other semester. We can do it by semester for you. All right, so I know Mr. Baisdell went over this. So we basically said, it has to be a class that we don't offer here. So a lot of students will take sociology, anthropology, philosophy. I think I mentioned earlier criminal justice. So those are classes that students typically do dual enrollment for. Also, that list I gave you on that table when you walked in, it says CVHS typical dual enrollment classes, or actually it says course selection guide. It looks like this. This is a list of classes that are going to be approved, but we do allow classes that are not on this list. This is just like the common classes that people pick. And then also, there could be a course conflict. Or a schedule conflict. So that would be like, let's say you wanted to do AP psychology and AP biology, but then you find out that they're only offered second hour, right? So in that case, we would allow dual enrollment for one of those AP classes because it's a course conflict. But at this point, we don't know that for next year. We typically don't find that out till like June or August. So that's the only downside, is we don't usually find that out till later. Okay, so what college courses are not covered by dual enrollment? So the courses listed on this slide: PE, religious classes. Also, anything that we offer the AP version of, we do not cover for dual enrollment. Okay, so what should we take? We kind of talked about this already. I know Mr. Baisdell did a good job showing that Michigan transfer agreement. And keep in mind, the categories that work best with that Michigan transfer agreement for dual enrollment is that social science category and the humanities and the fine arts. And then there's a few science classes, but we do offer some of those AP science classes, so it just depends on which subject area you're looking at. But I do know like astronomy is one that works. So if you're thinking about science, maybe look at that. So with grades, so this is something that sometimes students are not always aware of, but with dual enrollment, the grade does not calculate into your GPA unless you tell us that you want it to. So on your request form, you're going to indicate, do you want high school credit, college credit, or both for your dual enrollment class? So if you select just college credit, then the grade would show up, but it won't affect your GPA, okay? And then if you say you want both, then it does impact the GPA, and there's different reasons people choose one or the other, but like if I've had students with like really good GPAs and they're not sure if they're going to do well in that dual enrollment class, they may say, I don't want it to impact my GPA, and that's okay as long as you don't need the credit. So transportation, we do not provide transportation to Macomb or from Chippewa, okay? So as Mr. Baisdell mentioned, we reduce your schedule here if you're in dual enrollment. So if you're in one class at Macomb, then typically our students would leave after fifth hour, but you would have to have your own ride. So keep that in mind if you are a busser, because you would have to stay here still for the entire day. Okay, so I know Mr. Baisdell mentioned the funding, and actually this year it was $762, but he just said it's going up to $800, so that's good. So that means hopefully the class that you pick, especially if you're going to Macomb, will be covered. And as he mentioned again, most classes are covered as long as it's not like a 6-credit class. All right, textbooks. I know he mentioned this as well, but I would say go to the Macomb bookstore in person is really the best. I've had students try online. They've tried to call. And they usually have the best results if they just go on campus and they order the book. And they just indicate that they're a dual enrollment student from Chippewa, and then they can charge it to our account. So with cost, this is just an example of, with the amount of money that we cover per class, what the student responsibility would be. So, tuition per credit hour at Macomb is $102 per credit hour currently. So that would add up to $306 plus the additional fees. And then textbooks for a total expense of $534. So, if you look at how much Michigan will pay, the student does not have to pay anything. So, in this example, you had everything covered. And then example number 2, it's a 4-credit class. So, the tuition's going to be a little bit more expensive. And then look, the textbooks on this one are a lot more. So in this case, with our current allowance, the student has to pay a small fee, but it's still minimal here. All right, I know Mr. Baisdell mentioned this, but want to reinforce communicating with the counselor on any changes you make after you submit that request form to us, okay? So the request form indicates what your class is that you plan to take, and then that's what we approve with Macomb. So you turn in that request form, I approve it with Macomb, and then that's what you're allowed to take. So if you make any changes, typically Macomb will end up billing you for that class. So you don't want to do that. And you also don't want to drop a class or withdraw once it's started, okay? Because we've already paid typically at that point, and you can't get your money back. And if you do drop a class or fail a class, the state does require us to bill you for that class. So keep that in mind. We don't want to do that, but we have to. All right, so making time for studying, I think, is really important with college classes because I think sometimes students think like, oh, wow, this is like less time than high school. This is going to be easier. And yes, typically, like a 3-credit college class, you're in school less than you are in high school, but the time that you have to spend outside of class is a lot more, okay? So a general rule of thumb is for every credit or every hour that you're in a college class, you have to spend 2 hours studying. So if you have a 3-credit college class, then that's 6 hours of study time, okay? Now, again, be careful with those accelerated 8 or 12-week classes because they go like twice as fast as a regular class because regular classes are 15 weeks. And I've really had a lot of students lately kind of get in trouble with that because, they aren't used to that format and they don't have the time to spend on that class. Okay, so advocating for yourself, I can't stress this enough. I think Mr. Baisdell mentioned this, like colleges typically don't communicate with parents, they don't communicate with counselors, so they want to communicate with just the student, okay? So if you have an issue, you got to reach out to your professor. You email, you call them, you go to their office hours, but that's really the best way to handle it. And many professors appreciate when you advocate for yourself. So if you start struggling, you need to do that early on before you get too far behind. Okay, so this is, I don't expect you to, I'm not going to go through this step by step because this would be hard for you to remember, but I know Mr. Baisdell mentioned again with the course catalog, that's on Macomb's website, and this slide will be posted on our website, and we just want you to know how to find the course descriptions, okay, and the class times, because when you turn in that request form to me, you should have looked at that ahead of time so you can see what class do you want and what time is it available. Will that work for you? So when you leave here, go on Macomb's website, search up the course catalog, search for sections, and then you can see the different class times that are available. And the fall 2024 and winter 2025 catalogs are out right now. Be careful about the times of courses, okay? So I have students sometimes that will schedule a class. Let's say they're here hours 1 through 5, okay? Our 5th hour ends at 1 o'clock. And then they'll schedule a college class that starts at 1 o'clock. That doesn't really work because you give yourself no time to get there. So you got to be careful about that. So, if you're here hours 1 through 5, you're done at 1 o'clock, your earliest college class should be at like 1:30, okay? And then again, keep in mind those outside of school commitments to make sure that schedule will work for you. And then the breaks, again, are not the same. College spring break is not the same as our spring break. So if you're someone who likes to travel, that might be an issue. Same thing with midwinter break. They don't have a midwinter break. So you'll just want to be making sure you communicate that, with your professor if you're signed up for a class during that time. Oh, and then also the snow days. This is important. There are no snow days typically at Macomb as often as they are in the high school, okay? Occasionally they have them, but most of the time we have them more often than they do. So next steps. So this is similar to what Mr. Baisdell had showed you with the step-by-step process with Macomb, except for, I put like our request form is number 1 step, and that is due April 15th. And that request form is something that you got today. So it looks like this. You need one for each semester, okay? So one for fall and one for winter. So if you didn't grab 2, grab another one on your way out. And we can help you fill this out if you're unsure. Sign up to see me or sign up to meet with your counselor. But make sure you fill this out with all of your information, especially making sure your phone number is correct in case we need to get a hold of you outside of school. That's important. Don't worry about the bottom part because that's what I fill out. And then we are having Macomb come here April 25th during the school day. So they will be here to help you with like the online application and the admission steps. I still would like you to try and do those things ahead of time, but if you're stuck, come during second hour on April 25th to the Media Center, and we can help you out, okay? And then the other Macomb steps I listed at the bottom are similar to what Mr. Baisdell mentioned, but I think I just want to emphasize the applying to Macomb as a dual enrollment student, because if you apply as like just a regular student, then they're going to expect that you're going to be paying for your classes, okay? So you want to apply as a dual enrollment student. And then we don't drop the high school class from your schedule until you send me a screenshot that shows me that you're registered, okay? So once you've completed all your Macomb steps and you actually register, send me a screenshot, and then we'll drop that high school class from your schedule, okay? And then just making sure you check that Macomb email is very, very important because that's how they communicate any changes with you, okay? All right. So here's our QR code again for attendance. If you didn't do this at the beginning, you should also have that on one of the sheets that you grabbed from the table. Please make sure you do that QR code. And again, the Remind text message group, that information is on the back. And then I will take questions right now. If there's any questions for me specifically to Chippewa Valley, I can answer those, or individual questions if you want to come up after words. I'll be around for a few minutes. You can also email me. My email is on the slide. And then I will post this presentation with the recording and some additional information on the Chippewa Valley Counseling website under dual enrollment. So if you, if you miss something, you can access that later. Yes. You know what? Okay, you should be fine then. I think I tried to use the same information. Yes. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, so I would say have her meet with her counselor. We'll go over all the graduation requirements and making sure that, even with the dual enrollment, that, everything's on track to graduate. And especially, it's more for, like, juniors and seniors, they have more room in their schedule typically to do dual enrollment. So we see more of an increase with dual enrollment junior and senior year. Yes. Any other questions? All right. I'll stick around if anybody has individual questions, but thank you so much for your time tonight, and have a good night.